that effect keep popping up on your feed? Let me show you the easiest way to do it. First, I'm going to start with the footage that we stabilized yesterday with the logo to keep it in the center. I'm going to go ahead and first pre-compose, move all the attributes to a new composition. Then I'm going to go ahead and find an area where I want the logo to remove. I think right here would be a good part. So I'm going to go ahead and find that spot. You're going to want to go ahead and take a snapshot and then go ahead and open that up in Photoshop. So once you have it in Photoshop, you're going to want to go ahead and first cut out the logo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a content aware fill. What you'll do is you just want to make sure the green area is what's selected. It'll use that to fill. And so over here you can see how it'll look with that fill. Go ahead and hit OK. Now you can go ahead and save that as a PNG. Once you have that saved as a PNG, go ahead and actually delete that content aware fill, and we're going to do the opposite. We're going to go ahead and cut out the logo. This isn't necessary. Some people like to use already a transparent logo. I'm just going to use the one from the video. So you're going to want to go ahead and select it. Normally I'll select the inverse and I'll feather it just a little bit. You can go ahead and delete that. I'll go through and clean up the edges just to make it look as best as possible. That should look something like this, and go ahead and save this one as a PNG as well. Now you're going to want to go back to After Effects, and in here we're going to go ahead and create a new null object. I usually shorten it to the part that I'm going to have the logo gone, so we'll just do it for probably about a second, maybe 1.5 seconds. Now you want to click on your video and go to Tracker, and you want to do Track Motion. Make sure you do Position and Rotation. This will give you 2 little boxes that it tracks with. So what you'll want to do is I'll put one on one side of the logo. Make sure it's a high contrast area, and I'll take the other one and bring it to the other side of the logo. Now you'll just want to hit play, let that track. You can watch down here. You only really need to track it for the length for the null object. You don't need to track the whole video. Once that's done, you just hit stop, and then make sure you edit target and set that to your null object. Go ahead and apply that both X and Y. So now you'll see that the null object follows the logo. What I'll do now, I'll take that PNG with the logo removed and I'll put that right above the other video. Go ahead and shorten that down to the same as your null object. So I'll go ahead and turn down the opacity for that just slightly so I can see the logo. And then you'll want to go and create a mask. So it doesn't have to be a perfect mask. Follow around that. You'll want to link that to your null object. So now you'll see that follows. So if you turn that opacity back up, you'll see that logo disappears. You can kind of see the edges, so what I'll do is I'll go to the mask and add a feather to the edges. One thing I notice is that the color does change since I'm changing the angle. So what I'll do on top of that to make it blend even better is I'll add the Lumetri color option. So bring that down, put that on there. And what we'll do is we'll set a keyframe for the temperature and exposure. We'll go to the very last frame and we'll try to match. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially if you're planning on using the logo in front of it. But you can spend all the time to basically make it match as best as possible. Then I'll go ahead and add the logo cutout. Throw that right at the top. You want to do the same. You'll want to cut it down to the same length as your null object. You'll see that matches. Now you get to animate this logo. So what I'll do is I'll turn on the 3D effect. That way you have all of the different options. Make sure you keyframe scale. You can do position. I do all the rotations, then I'll come down a few frames and I'll scale it up, and I'll usually have it do a flip or two. You can have it flip any direction, and you can go back and see how that'll. Then I'll go further down where I want it to go back. We'll go back to 100. And what I'll do is I'll actually drop the opacity a little bit. I'll hide my other PNG so then I can see the logo under. And then I'll just basically match that logo. So then you can go ahead and unhide that. Turn the opacity back up. The logo flips up and then lands back into its spot. What we'll do is we'll shorten all this so that when it lands, that's exactly where it goes. And I'll always go ahead and make sure you easy ease the keyframes. So I'll go ahead and adjust the scales graph. So then that looks like that. And then you always want to make sure when you're doing movement like this to enable motion blur. That way it looks natural. To make it look even better, what I'll do now is I'll add a ripple effect for when it slams down. So you can either use ripple or CC ripple pulse. They both work for this. What I'll do is I'll make sure the center is the center of the logo. You'll want to go ahead and make sure you keyframe a few down and make sure you adjust the pulse level. That's the only way to enable this effect. And now it looks more like it's slamming into the hood. So if it looks off at all, just make sure that you go back and try to make sure that it lines up almost perfectly. And that'll look like this. And that is how easy it can be. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. See you guys in the next one.